Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome inside the Lock Shop, and a huge under 7.5 yesterday in the Jays game. So we've got that going for us. What's up, Hus?
Yeah, you're like the only people in Canada happy.
So you
about
muted?
the result.
That might be you.
No, I'm not muted.
Oh,
Am I?
You might have been. Anyway, you're working now. So first thing I heard from you was when you said, no, I'm not muted. So I don't know. Must have worked. So yeah,
amazing. You're one of the few people happy about the outcome of yesterday's game.
I'm furious at it. I've basically fired like 16 different people from the office registry today for the Toronto Blue Jays because that was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life. You're a huge Kikuchi guy, but even you must have been like, what the hell are they doing right now?
Well, listen, I actually have a funny story about this, how this took place. So I had to get a haircut yesterday at 4:30 after the show. Shout out to our friends at Modern Man Barbershop. Great WST sponsor. So
looking like a Tommy Gazzola there, yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, let's stay in the realm of reality here, Dusty. But anyway, so I go there and it's a great spot. They've got TVs on. So I'm watching the game, but because I'm getting my haircut, I have to take my glasses off. And so whatever, I'm talking to the girl that's cutting my hair and I'm sort of paying attention. It's 0-0. But because of the distance from the TV and the fact that I don't have my glasses on, I'm not seeing everything very clearly. And listen, I'm paying attention. The cut fits up. I see there's a couple guys on base. And I put my glasses on. I'm like, what the hell is Kikuchi doing in? and to be honest, like, I guess, I mean, at that moment when they went to take him out, I obviously wasn't paying attention. Like, I thought maybe Barrios was hurt. So I get out, I go into my car, I throw my app on, and I watch the game, and I hear Buck Martinez losing his mind. And obviously, we know what the aftermath was. And then I fired up Twitter. And listen, I don't follow a ton of baseball people per se, probably more hockey, football, Canadian sports guys. I think 8 of the first 10 tweets on my feed were something along the lines of, everybody involved in this decision needs to be fired. I mean, inconceivable, man. He was absolutely dealing. He didn't even get to 50 pitches. This was the top of the 4th inning. I don't get it. It was a terrible situation for Kikuchi to be put in. And I mean, you heard the players afterwards. I mean, Whit Merrifield was beside himself, even Bo. And like, without saying, like, and I think they knew that this wasn't just the manager's decision.
Yeah.
This is Moneyball run amok, Dusty. Money, like, I'm not the guy that's like, oh, analytics. Like, I'm not a crusty guy. I mean, there's a lot of great information.
Yeah, you got time for them. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. But I mean, you cannot let the computer make every decision in a game that's played by humans. You just can't. And that was, well, it blew up in their faces, and I highly doubt they get a chance to make it right.
Well, that's what I mean. We'll get into it with Pat when he pops by too here. He'll be by around like 11:25ish. We'll get him in for some Thursday night football picks and a post-mortem on the Blue Jays as well. But you are, I mean, for the move, the decision itself drove me nuts. But then when I watch after the game and Schneider is sitting there going, yeah, probably had his best stuff of the entire year. I was like, what? Like, so what are we doing here? Like you just said, I mean, he's going up in the place he used to play. He's dealing. You just said he had the best stuff he had all year, but some sort of output on a computer somewhere said, oh, it's time to get him out of this game. I mean, they cannot do nothing about this, right, Hus? Like, there's no way the Toronto Blue Jays can roll back next year with this exact same setup. It would be a death blow if this isn't already.
Oh, man, that team was so disappointing all year, and I think they were sort of aggravating their fans, to be honest with you, as things went on. And then to have it end up the way that it did, I mean, No, I mean, I don't think there's any way that they can possibly come back. No, listen, I wasn't big on Schneider anyways. I thought they could have whacked him at some points during the season. But I think we realize now that, I hate to say it, but I think he might have been a puppet of management in a lot of ways. I'm not sure how, because I mean, he's an old school ball guy. I mean, the concept of him thinking that that was a good idea naturally just doesn't compute, to be honest with you. So to me, the hard questions are going to be for Shapiro, for Atkins, and Schneider's going to probably get caught up in it as well.
Yeah.
But listen, Jays fans nuclear yesterday, as they should have been. But to your point, we can talk about this decision all we want. This team never hit when it counted all season long. They didn't yesterday. And I know Schneider said, well, what I'd like to change is a bit of a foot or two trajectory off Matt Chapman's bat on that one play. I mean, yeah, sure. You had 2 on in the first. You had 2 on in the second. You had 1 on in the third. I mean, you had many opportunities to get ahead. They could not get it done. And listen, credit to Sonny Gray. He pitched his ass off to get out of those jams. But that was absolutely a microcosm of the Blue Jays season.
The entire season.
Great pitching, weird decisions by management, one deadly base running gaffe per game. Like, what are you doing, Vladdy? And the inability to hit in the clutch. And that, for all the talent that team has, 2 and done again. And I think there's going to be big changes in Toronto. Well, I'm glad Pat's coming on, because we need to check on Jake. Like, Jake, I saw Jake in the first inning was already done. And maybe he was just mentally preparing himself, but he's hardcore. He goes to a ton of games. And man, I feel for everyone that invested so much in that season. There was a lot of excitement that maybe this team could be the one that kind of, like, never mind, got further than they'd been before. I mean, get into the mix, get through this round, be playing legitimate playoff baseball. And they were done in about 27 hours.
I'm looking on Twitter right now. I see Ross Atkins is trending, which doesn't surprise me at all. But you mentioned it. Critical base running errors. I don't know what was going on in game 1 with Bo. He wasn't even going to round third. He was kind of watching the play. His third base coach was just sort of standing there. I'm not sure what he was doing. Then he decides to go in after the game. He goes, I kind of went because I thought I was going to be safe. And then you get Vladdy getting picked off at second. Like, these are your core guys. Like, these are your top 2 pieces. And they're the guys who are making the critical errors. So, I mean, the entire organization is going to be under microscope right now. But where do we come out on those 2 key pieces still being the group that you build around here, Hus, moving forward?
Well, listen, Bo's a stud. I'm in on Bo. And I mean, I think they've got 2 more years of a deal with Bo, so they don't really need to worry. Vladdy, though, I mean, if we thought that he was going to be the second coming of his old man and be the franchise player that everyone hoped and thought that he could be when he joined the Blue Jays, I don't have a lot of optimism that is the case. Can he have a long major league career and be a star player and help you win some games? Yeah. But is he the alpha you're building your team around? I don't think so. The one good thing for the Jays is that they do have a lot of money coming off the books next year. I mean, they haven't been cheap. They certainly have given, the Atkins and Shapiro plenty of money to work with. But I think they need to fundamentally shake things up. But again, the big question before we get to any of that is who's going to be pulling the trigger and who's going to be making the decisions, because I think the faith in that management group has never been lower than it is today coming out of what happened yesterday.
We'll get into that a little bit later on here. You can, Roy's in and says, I'd trade Vlad and I'd keep Bo. And Tyson says, this just makes baseball worse as a sport that's already fighting for its life, LOL. And it was a pretty good year for baseball. Like, things tightened up. Things were a little bit quicker. Some of the big boys missed the playoffs, but that's good once in a while. The Jays, there was definitely an opportunity to get through the first round here this year, and they completely pissed it away. So we'll see where it ends up going from here. We'll get into it a little bit when Pat Gregoire pops by. Hus, we got CFL picks we need to get to today, and we've got a Thursday nighter that we need to get to. So let's dive into the Canadian Football League, I think, and then we'll go into the NFL, and then that'll transition us into Pat for a full-blown Jays meltdown and probably put together some sort of parlay, little parlay here for the Thursday nighter. By the way, we are sweating it out here in the Edmonton Sports Talk offices today because we've done our cool bet hotline of the day, which I had is DJ Moore over 49.5 receiving yards tonight. And then we put it together. So Mr. Lean was back on the case today, and he took Brighton in Europa League to win, and they're down 2-0 right now. So it's really nice watching. Brighton penalty's coming up right now. We've got a Brighton penalty. Come on, hit it. But it's really fun watching Matthew Iwana completely become a degenerate. It's really amusing to me, Hus.
All we needed just to get a couple footy picks in from Mr. Lean, and all of a sudden Iwanek's right there with the rest of the lock shoppers. You love to see it.
I know. I hope Brighton buries this one. This would be pretty dramatic by the time we get Pat on. Canadian Football League, though, Hus, let's get into it, man. Coming down the stretch here, a couple of meaningful games locked and loaded this week.
Are we ever going to get a line for this Toronto-Edmonton game, or do we just sort of put that one to
Jeez, that's
the side
still not
and,
up, hey?
Just put this one to the side and focus in on the 3 games. I mean, there's just one game that we really need to worry about, to be perfectly honest with you, and that game is tomorrow night. But
yeah,
we will get to the Ticats and the Saskatchewan Roughriders and Ottawa and the Montreal Alouettes. But yeah, I'm interested. Before I say anything, I would love you to start with your breakdown and thoughts on this Winnipeg BC game, because hey, you've been calling both of these teams' games, following the West all year long. Before I come and fire you up with a Winnipeg-based prediction and thoughts on the game, let's start with you, who might have a little bit more of an unbiased take on this game.
Well, I mean, both quarterbacks are playing at what I would describe as an MOP level. I mean, both guys are having really nice seasons. They'd be right in the mix there with Kelly. Both teams have incredible weapons at the receiver position, to the point where I'd say that's a straight-up toss-up. Both defenses can be absolutely dominant at times, but both defenses have had letdowns throughout the season. The first 2 games of this head-to-head series, I really basically just throw out the window because of some injuries along the way. The one significant advantage in this football game is that the Bombers have a running back and a running game. You can make a case for Brady Oliveira to be in the mix for MOP this year as well. Like, he has been an absolute monster. He's going to have over 2,000 combined yards of offense. The BC Lions, I don't mind Mizell. He's been pretty good for a guy who kind of came out of nowhere, but he doesn't even touch Brady Oliveira. So that would be the one significant advantage that either side has, really, either way. And when you break it down, and it's so evenly on all the other aspects of the game, when you have a game, an element of the game in which you can legitimately control the time of possession on the ground with Brady Oliveira, I know they're on the road here, man, but I think because of that Brady Oliveira factor, I think I have to get on the Bombers here as 2-point underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone knew I was going to come in and tell you why the Bombers can and will win this football game, but it's by no means I mean, listen, they're 2-point underdogs right now. And by the way, I thought that this would maybe get closer to a pick'em or 1. It's back to 2 right now. So Bomber fans, if you were waiting, plus 112 on the money line right now, I'll just throw that out there. Listen, you laid it out. Both teams are stacked on both sides of the football. To me, where this game is going to be determined is going to be when BC has the football and the Bomber defense is on the field. Like, I have full confidence that the Bombers offense is going to get theirs. Brady Oliveira will run for a ton of first downs. It'll be a big part of it. Zach Caleros will have a big game. And the Bomber receiving core, I mean, fully healthy right now, is as good as I've seen in a long time in the Canadian Football League. The thing with the Bomber defense is, and maybe they're a victim of their own success, because we're so used to them being so good for so long, but they've had some stretches this year where they've looked really ordinary. And to be honest, one of those stretches was the beginning of last week's game against the Argos. Now, it was a weird game because going in, we knew they weren't playing Chad Kelly. They were resting a couple guys. And it almost seems like the Bomber defense thought that, oh, okay, well, if those guys aren't playing, this is going to be a cakewalk. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. But to their credit, they did get it going later on, albeit against second and then eventually a third string quarterback. But I'm going to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. I mean, they have played at a championship level for a long time. And the one thing I think we can safely say about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, led by Adam Bighill and Willie Jefferson and Jackson Jeffcoat and Brandon Alexander, is they're big-time players that come up in the big games. And as I say, there's going to be a lot of points in this game, but it will be the Bomber defense. If they play their best, I think the Bombers win this football game. But they're going to need to be at or around their best if they're going to do that, because as you mentioned, this BC Lions offense, and they remember what they did to them in that first game when Vernon Adams was there.
Yep.
Albeit there was no Jackson Jeffcoat. And the two weakest Bomber defensive performances of the year, that game and the game against Hamilton, certainly no coincidence that Jackson Jeffcoat was out. Willie Jefferson is, I mean, I don't want to say twice the player when Jeffcoat's there, but it's far more easy to focus on number 5 if 94 isn't there. He is going to be there. And I guess the one other thing that is a nice intangible for the Bombers that people probably don't talk enough about is the return of Janarian Grant on special teams. I mean, they just have not had much of a return game, since he's been out. And he's practicing fully off the 6th game as of Tuesday.
Is he going to play, though?
He's in.
Is he in? Oh, okay. I thought I saw something that he wasn't going to be in. But anyway, no.
He is in.
Okay.
He is in. So here we go. This is it for all the marbles, for the West Division, for all intents and purposes. Bombers have been good in BC before. But I'll tell you what. Ric Flair used to say, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And the Bombers still in the Western Division are the man. The BC beat them earlier in the year. They came back with a vengeance and dropped a 50 burger on them when they came in claiming to be the Donut Boys. I think this is going to be a big win for Winnipeg. I'm going to take the +2 for Lock Shop. And I'm in at +112 on the money line. For the
of course you are. Of course you are. Is there, so we're building it up as the game of the year. There's so much on the line. The first 2 meetings between these teams ended up being duds. I mean,
this one won't be.
You don't think so?
No way.
I would agree with you on that, but I didn't think the other ones were going to be either. But this is different. I mean, this is essentially a playoff game. There's a lot on the line in this game, so I'm hoping we get like a 34-31 thriller or something like that. Like, I'll take that.
I think so. And you know what? And while we're talking about it, this game opened at 50.5. It's now 51.5.
We're on the over.
No
right?
worries.
Yeah.
No worries. Over all day in this one. So yeah, Bombers in the over is what I'm leaning right now. I'll tell you what, it's going to be and I know Cowboys probably watching right now, and some of the others that jumped on us that were still fingers crossed for our Bomber 13-15 win bet at +200 or +215. So have to win this game and then need one more win in one of those final 2 games to get to the 13. And it actually works out perfectly in that with a win, they all but clinch the division, but they don't clinch the division, and they still need one more win to do it. So
that helps.
Fingers crossed we can get that. But again, it really does come down to this game. The other games seem very underwhelming, to be honest, after speaking about Winnipeg and BC going at it for the Western Division.
Well, you know, it's funny. Let's go to a team that has beaten both BC and Winnipeg in the Hamilton Tiger Cats, which I can't believe I'm saying that, but they've got wins against Winnipeg and BC this year. They're going in to Saskatchewan as 3.5-point dogs. It's a very interesting 3.5 number here, Hus. The Riders have been bleeding and have found no way to stop it. I'm not too sure how they do that at some point. And then the Ticats have just been, I mean, when they're on, and when they are not, they are not. So is that +3.5? Is the number going to play the dog here, basically?
No, for me, no.
Really?
And again, now Dan A is in the chat. Hustle and Nielson. You hear Saskatchewan Roughriders bad news this week. I hope Riders win.
Motivation for the win.
Like George Reed?
Yeah.
I'm with I don't know. I don't know how much of that narrative is going to resonate inside that room. But CFL legend, Rider legend, Sure, they'll do something special before the game. To me, the Riders just need to get it together. I mean, it's been a while since they've played well. I don't know whether the Bombers broke them in that Banjo Bowl beatdown, but I think they're at home. They realize that now is the time to get it straight. I think there's a lot on Jake Dolegala too right now, after the way he's played as of late. As much as I don't like to lay 3.5 on a team that's given me absolutely no reason to back them, I am going to back them, and I'll take Saskatchewan minus 3.5 in this game. You going to go with Hammer?
I'm going to go with Hamilton, I think, here. I mean, the Riders, they can't stop anything. Like, defensively, they are atrocious. They cannot stop anything. I'm not sure. Like, if you go watch Nick Marshall play right now, he's just going through the motions defensively. Like, when there was that breakdown last week for a deep shot, Moncrief at least was trying to do something. Marshall was just kind of trotting along watching the play happen. So I don't know what the motivation level is like for the Riders right now. It's going to sound weird to say this. They've lost 4 in a row. They had that big stretch where they beat the Lions and beat the Bombers. Actually, I guess both these teams have beaten both the Lions and the Bombers now that I look at it. But outside of that, their other wins are against Edmonton, Calgary, and Ottawa. Like, they had that one really good 2-week stretch when Dolegala starting games. And outside of that, they've been very mediocre all year. I think I'm going to get on the Ticats here, plus 3.5. I mean, the Riders are the worst defensive team I've seen in the league over the last 2-3 years, and that includes Edmonton. Like, the Riders, they were giving up, I think, on average, like 40 points per game over the last month. 40. Like, how are you supposed to win a football game if you can't even keep the other team below 30, for goodness sake? So I'm going to get on Hamilton here at plus 3.5 as a road dog against the Riders, and I promise everybody I'll call the hell out of that one for you on TSN on Saturday. What about the Red Blacks and Alouettes, buddy? 6.5 line here.
Well, okay. Remember a couple weeks ago, like this is part of a home and home, right? And Montreal went into Ottawa and covered comfortably last week, and now this series goes back to Ottawa. This reminds me of the home and home a couple weeks ago with the Alouettes and the Montreal and the Toronto Argonauts.
And the Argos, you're right, yep.
If you remember in the first game, the Argos beat the hell out of Montreal, and then were a big favorite in the rematch. And I was on Toronto, and then all of a sudden it was a close game. They actually did win, but it came right down to it. I'm actually going to take Ottawa, even though they're on the road and they are in Montreal. I just think that, playing the second of back-to-back games in some ways favors the team that was on the short end. I think they've got a chance to come back against them, do some of the things that they didn't do well last week better, and be a more competitive team this week. Tough to really stick it to a team twice in a row. And it's interesting. This was 7. It's actually down to 6.5. So it does seem like there's some people on Ottawa. But I'm going to take the points in this one. Ottawa plus 6.5 to keep this one close in the rematch after getting their doors blown off last week at home.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do the same. I think Montreal wins this football game, but I'll take Ottawa plus the 6.5. Should have got on it a little bit earlier in the week when it was sitting at plus 7. I thought you had a pretty strong theory and used that reference that we saw a little bit earlier on in the year where we had a little bit of a bad read on that one. Yeah, and then Edmonton-Toronto is still not up. And we won't really know. We can't even really guess what that number is going to be until we see exactly what's going on with the Argos lineup, right? So that should be coming out pretty soon. I mean, those depth charts have to be out today, so we'll probably have a line later on this afternoon, I would think.
That being said, I mean, do you trust them? Do you trust Dinwiddie? I mean, they took out Dukes in the middle of a close game and put the third stringer in last week. I mean,
yeah, it's loosey-goosey right now. I think they're having a big ceremony there this week. I don't know if that's going to impact this game one way or the other. I mean, I don't think Edmonton's going to. Well, imagine if Trey Ford goes out and wins this game. I don't know. Edmonton's coming off a bye. I mean, we'll see what they're able to do. But as far as a quick CFL partner parlay here, Hus goes, we are both on the Bombers. We both really love the over in that football game. Where do you come out? Like, we're head-to-head here on this Ticats Riders game. Where do you come out on that 49?
Well, how about this? Why don't we just take Ottawa plus 6.5, Bombers money line, and over 51.5?
Bombers money line, over 51.5, and Red Blacks plus 6.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea.
And then
Then we can stay away from that other game.
Stay away from that game.
All right, so Bombers money line plus 110, over 51.5 minus 109, and then Red Blacks plus 6.5 at minus 110. Boys will get that done for us. That'll be good.
Perfect. You know where to find that, folks. Cool Bet exclusives, Lock Shop section.
All right, let's bring in Pat. We'll start with the Blue Jays, then we'll get over to the Thursday Nighter. Shaking his head already. Hey, Patty, that type of day in Toronto, eh?
How's Jake? I didn't even want to check in on him. I mean, is he, have we heard from Jake since what happened yesterday?
He's alive. He's already moved on to the Leafs, which we know how that's going.
That'll go well. Poor bastard.
Just our Cool Bet work group chat was just on fire yesterday, and for good reasons. This is, I don't want to say it's more embarrassing than last year when they blew that historic lead, but I think it might be more frustrating, which is insane to say. And I'm not a John Schneider guy. I thought after last year's debacle, he probably should have gone Hus. I heard you said maybe 2 or 3 times this year you probably could have justified him getting fired. But the way that all transpired, and I know it's not just ultimately his decision, but at some point you got to figure, okay, if he makes this decision, he knows he's getting fired either way. He's getting fired if it doesn't work. And if he says, screw it, we're not doing this, and goes against his boss, he's probably going to get fired as well. But at least he can go down with, like, Hus, you said it, like, this is an old school baseball guy. I'm convinced he's a puppet. He's a Shapiro Atkins puppet. And I hope, pressure's got to be at the top, because that is absolutely embarrassing. Year after year, the Bo Vladdy era is 0-6 in the playoffs. 0-6. This is supposed to be this generational golden age for Toronto baseball. It hasn't been. It's been underwhelming, and it starts at the top. Those two goofs have been just so two-faced the entire time they've been here. Cool. We got some upgrades in the Sky Dome. We got some, really cool outfield 500 level Hus. We got poutine dogs. Awesome. Very cool. The place is still a dump. It's still a cement block in the middle of the city. It's not a ballpark. Yeah, it's a little more enjoyable to go there. So they've done nothing from that standpoint. They've really done nothing. They had 2 runs with a historic, great all-time lineup that could just mash the ball. This team is underperformed. But with that being said, I know pressure's got to be at the top, and it trickles down. And the decision yesterday, I hope that doesn't take the pressure off the players, because I shouldn't say the players, the batters, the bats, because the pitching staff from start to finish this season have been phenomenal. They were left to hung out to dry time after time after time after time. And I think a couple of weeks ago, when you guys asked how I was feeling, I said, sure, they're going to get in, but I just don't feel good with this group, because when it matters the most, they shrivel up and the bats go silent. And that the entire game, from Vladdy's dumb, idiotic base error, Bo the other day, and I want to go on the record here. I still think Bo is a cornerstone piece, and I think he could still win with him. But he's the type of player that you just have to deal with some of the errors. He has the upside. We haven't seen that upside from Vladdy this year, except for him hitting 1 million home runs in the home run derby. I hope the pressure doesn't get off the players, and it doesn't just all go on Atkins, Shapiro, and Schneider and the decision, because what they did yesterday, what they've done this entire season, and what they've done in the last 2 playoffs, it is shameful. This is a team that at the start of the year, this year, were a top 5 favorite to win the World Series. The year before that, favorites to win the World Series. Before that, like, it just simply cannot happen. And it starts at the top, but at the same time, please do not let these players off the hook, because what they did this year, this is, and it's crazy to say, because there have been some very unlikable teams in Toronto. This might be the most unlikable Toronto team that I've had to deal with in my lifetime. Hito Turgaloo Raptors, the Salute Gate Dion Phaneuf Maple Leafs team where they basically told the crowd "F you" after their game. Like those teams don't even come close. And there are some likable characters on this team, but just how much they've underperformed. It is. I don't want to get on a tangent here, but like I even look back at the start of the year. Oh, we're taking away the home run jacket. We're all about serious. We've made too many errors on the base path. We've gone through too many slumps. It's the same team, but they're having less fun. It's the same team without the fun. And halfway through the year, like this team just doesn't have the swagger they have anymore. Yeah, because you took all the fun away. You traded Vladdy's two best friends. You trade away probably the best catching prospect that we've had, and he's been mashing in the playoffs. You guys did this to yourself. It is your fault. You did it. No one else.
Varsho trade. The Varsho trade is looking
the instant regret. Hey, the instant regret.
I don't know what the contract statuses of Shapiro and Atkins are, but regardless of that,
and it sucks.
I don't know how they run it back with those guys. By the way, the Vladdy, and I mean, you mentioned the base running. I mean, it is part of the identity of that team to make at least one boneheaded play on the bases every game. But what's interesting about what happened yesterday, and this is just kind of coming out, that pickoff play was put on by Carlos Correa, and it was communicated through the pitch comm. So they got, and I'll say one thing about Vladdy. He just doesn't seem to have that level of awareness of everything going on around him at times. And maybe that's what happens when you're just so otherworldly talented. You can get away with a bunch of other things because you just have that naturally in you. But that was an absolute killer to take the bat out of Bo's hands with 2 on in that situation. I mean, it just simply can't happen. But credit to the Twins. They said they'd been working on this for a long time, pulled it out at the perfect time, and that was one of the biggest outs of the
I mean, the only saving grace in this is that they probably wouldn't have been able to cash Vladdy in anyway. I mean, they just left everybody on base the entire series anyway. And
the entire season.
Yeah, the entire season. Like the whole thing, the bringing in Kikuchi. I mean, we haven't even really fully ranted on that yet, but bringing in Kikuchi, it was an all-time bad decision, but at the same time, when you literally generate 1 run in a 2-game series, I mean, does it really matter in the end? Like
I feel sorry for all the pitchers. I feel sorry for all the pitchers. Like that staff, that bullpen. I mean, those guys actually came together and gave that team not just great, but like championship level pitching. Yeah. If they hit average, like an average MLB team and had that pitching, they're probably where Baltimore is right now, waiting for a team to play them in a legit series as opposed to a best of 3.
Well, I know we got to get to football here, but I'll two more quick things on that as well. You mentioned that, like, that's why it's so important to like not forget about who's at blame here. Yeah, it starts at the top, but like don't allow these guys that have just shriveled under pressure all season long. Also, like Davis Schneider, we don't even think about putting him in pinch hitting at some point when the offense has gone dry. You score 1 run in 16 innings. How do you not throw that kid in at some point? That's again just like managerial mistake, and a lot of people are saying in the know that the decision is at the top. Well, again, then they're at fault, but Schneider's also at fault for not taking it in his own hands, because at the end of the day, you're the manager. This is your team. You make the decisions. The thing that just for me as a Jays fan, you look at Vladdy, and if he puts up numbers or even relative numbers to what he did in 21, where he hit 48 home runs and wasn't like an electrifying bat and was showing to be that promising player, you're okay with the base running errors. You're okay that he can only play first base, or maybe he turns into a DH. You're fine with that. But his bat has just gotten worse and worse each year, and the other areas of the game aren't coming. So it's like, of course, you can deal with those bonehead mistakes. You can deal with that. You can also deal with that at game, 58 playing the Orioles on a Tuesday. You can't afford those in the big moments. You just simply can't. And you think about like the iconic moments in recent history for the Blue Jays. You've got Batista with the bat flip, Edwin Encarnacion hands up after his big home run in the wild card. Now you have Vladdy sitting there, helmet off, like looking just dejected that he just got tagged. Like, these guys need a moment. They need a moment. And in the last 6 years,
the replay signed. That's the please waste a challenge.
Yeah,
I can't believe that
like,
just happened.
I was like, come on, man, you're out. God love you, Fatty, but you were out. That's tough.
They need to come out in these moments. 0-6 in the last 6 years. Just can't or last however many years. 0-6. It just can't happen. It can't happen.
Hey, just one more thing on this before we get to football. And again, I don't speak too much on the big companies that broadcast all this stuff. We know that, TSN does the CFL and Rogers owns the baseball team and stuff. However, I have never heard Sportsnet go off on a team and the Sportsnet personalities last night. I mean, Ken Reed, God love him.
Oh, yeah.
He was amazing last night after the game. The people on the panel as well. There was no way to sugarcoat that. And that is going to be, there's a lot of work for this organization to do. Changes that probably should be made, whether they will be, we will see. But they didn't get protected afterwards by the broadcaster last night. I will say that. What a Thursday nighter tonight, guys. Bears in prime time. Whoop, whoop.
What's crazy is we're going to have a party tonight that's actually going to be really well attended for this game at Century Casino. We've been planning it for a couple of weeks. So we have the city of Edmonton very excited for the Commanders and Bears tonight, which I don't think we'd be able to say that at any other time of the year. So I do think this could end up being a pretty competitive football game. Patty, what's your early thoughts on this one, man?
That's the thing with these Thursday night games. They always are weird. They always, usually in the last little while at least have they're either two ways. It's either an absolute waxing and it's a blowout, or it comes down to one of the last few possessions, or within what the spread is. It just, for whatever reason, these games are always crazy and nutty things happen. This one's weird for me. You have the Commanders, who I just don't know if we know who they are. Are they the team that has, 2 wins at the start of the year? Are they the team that, went blow for blow with the Eagles? Or are they the team that the Bills just completely trounced over? On the flip side, the Bears looked like finally they were trending in the right direction. And then they blow a massive lead to probably the second worst team in the NFL, because the worst team is the Bears.
It's them.
So for me, I mean, normally when it's two bad teams going head to head, I tend to lean with just taking the points, especially with it being outside of a field goal. But I think the Commanders are a much better football team than this Bears team. I really do. I'm nervous about laying 6 points with the Commanders, but I just have more faith in them. I really do. With that being said, am I going to play a side? Probably not. I'll just go with a bunch of props. But if I had to choose a side, I'm probably going Commanders. Just, there is no way I can trust the Bears to keep this within a touchdown. I just don't know how.
I'm with you, Pat. I am, left hand up. The left hand is going up. We're back with the Commanders. Hey, I'm high on the Commanders. I had them last week against Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Easy cover. I mean, I still am a little peeved that Riverboat Ron didn't go for a 2-pointer at that point to potentially win the game.
Conservative Ronald. That's what his new name is.
Yes, Conservative Ronald, back from his formerly known as Riverboat Ron. But listen, the Bears are an absolute disaster. They are such a mess right now. And the Washington Commanders, I think, they proved to everyone last week, that they can hang with some good teams. Listen, I'm going to give them a mulligan for the Buffalo game. I think that was a get-right game for the Bills, and the Commanders were in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's like when you go into a bar and you're not expecting any trouble, and the big roid freak in the back just got broken up with his girlfriend and he's just looking for someone to beat the piss out of it. And you were that guy. That was the Commanders against the Bills in week 2. But I think they learned from that a little bit. They're a little tougher. They went up against another big dude on the weekend and yeah, they lost, but they hung in there. They're now getting the runt, the mouthy runt coming in saying, do you know who I am? My dad's a lawyer. And they're going to get to smack him up at the front and throw him out the club. So I love Washington here. I think that this is going to be a game that that Howell really starts to feel it, gets some more confidence. I think this is an important game for them, not only to win, but for them to get, some more mojo and build off what they did last week against a really good. I mean, they put up over 30 against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm loving the Commanders on this one. It was 5.5, which was very nice. Although right now it's -6 and it's just -102. I do like the Commanders by a touchdown. I'm putting my left hand up and I'm putting my money on Washington.
I can be convinced, but I think I'm going to take the Bears plus the points. I think I'm going to get on the Bears plus the points.
God bless you.
Yeah. Well, no, look, the Commanders, you're right. They look good against the Eagles. They got crushed by the Bills. And they ended up, the two teams that they beat were the Cardinals and the Broncos. And I know the Cardinals are a little bit better but they basically played, score-wise, they played a very similar game to the Bears against the Broncos. 35-33, they just ended up winning. The Bears ended up losing. So I think that's the one game where you can look at a similar opponent, the same opponent, and kind of see what happened in those games. And was that the game? Yeah, Denver had a lead in that game, and it was Washington that came back in that football game to get the win, right?
They were down 21-3 on the road.
Yeah, and then they came back and ended up winning that game. So I'm probably not the right idea to base too much off of the one team that they both played, but considering they both played the same team at a very similar level, I'm not going to read into too much of what happened last week for the Commanders. I like the Commanders. I mean, if you guys sat here and said we have to all be on the same side, I'll ride with the Commanders in that situation, but I think I'm gonna go against it. I'm gonna take Chicago here plus the points on the road. And Justin Fields might have me losing my mind by the time first quarter's up tonight because I got him in fantasy too, and it could be an absolute disaster. But I don't even think this has to be a backdoor cover. Like I think they hang around and eventually lose by within 6 to the Commanders tonight. Maybe I end up being wrong. I do like Howell and I like some of the offensive weapons that those guys have. I don't know. My gut's just saying Chicago finds a way to hang around in this one.
Well, we will see on that. They have not given many people much reason to believe in them so far, but it is impressive that you're still holding out a little bit of faith for the Bears and the Justin Fields experiment.
He's just hoping for a close game, so they have fun at their party. I mean, I don't blame you guys. You guys
are going to be crushing those brisket
sandwiches tonight. Yeah,
everyone's a winner.
I am with Pat though. I prefer props on this game to the actual side in this game. I've got a bunch of props. Pat, what do you got for props?
Me too. Yeah, I've got a lot of props.
I'd prefer props too if I was on the Bears.
You're going to hate that I'm actually on Bears props, which is going to be even worse.
I'm on a few props. I'll start with my favorite one, over 5.5 sacks. Curious to see where that is now. I think it did move. -110 still, actually. I thought it moved. I guess not. So since 2002, the Chicago Bears have been sacked the most by a single team with 75 sacks. Washington has 7 sacks this season. That's good enough for 8th in the NFL. But this also might be an opportunity for Chicago to get their pass rush going because no quarterback has been sacked more than Sam Howell this year with 24. He's been sacked 24 times, which is an average of 6 sacks per game. Listen to this log from Sam Howell. Week 1, 1. Week 2, 2. Week 3, 6. 4. And then the last 2 games against Buffalo, he gave up 9. And against the Eagles, he gave up 5. So He 1-2 in his first 2 career starts. Since then, 6, 4, 9, and 5 this season. That is ungood. Again, do the Bears really scare you with their front? Not really. They're not the old Bears. They're not when they had Khalil Mack. Like they're that's not them. But with that being said, Howell holds onto the ball a long time, and their offensive line is really bad. On the flip side, Washington, they've got some studs up front.
They do.
Sweat, Chase Young, they're going to get after Fields. I think we see a sack fest here. And the fact that it's over 5.5 at -110, that is by far my favorite bet. Brian Robinson Jr. over 63.5 rushing yards. In the games where the Commanders have won in those 2 games, he's averaged 18.5 carries. And when they've lost, he's only had 2, meaning they got to throw the ball. They're looking to get they're chasing pretty much. For me, this Bears defense is weak. I don't think they're tough. I think they can be exposed in the running game. They're about mid-pack when it comes to defending the rush. They're giving up 115.5 rushes per game. But in the last couple of weeks, this Commanders team, 70 yards Brian Robinson had against the Bills and 87 against the Broncos. I think he hits 63.5, no problem. I think it should be priced closer to, high 60s, 70. The other one I like, Justin Fields. And I heard you, Dusty, talking about this on ESPN.
You going over
today.
on the yards?
Over on the yards, 46.5. They got to get him going. They just have to get him going. Look what he was able to do last year when they showed flashes of brilliance. It was him using his legs. Whether they start looking at designed runs or if it's because, again, Washington is such a good pass rush defense, he might have to get out of the pocket. And instead of forcing passes, which we've seen him do this year, maybe he's got more of a green light to run. Use his legs, use his athleticism, get back to the quarterback we saw last year that made a lot of people think he was going to trend in the right direction. Also, a big number for this as well is the fact that the Commanders haven't really been able to stop mobile quarterbacks this year. They gave up 56 to Russell Wilson, 46 to Josh Allen, and 34 to Jalen Hurts. 46 to Allen in a blowout. If that's a closer game, he probably has even more than that. So even though only one of those quarterback went over the 46.5 rushing mark, the fact that I think that this is going to be a little bit of a closer game, and I think Fields is going to have to get out, I think it potentially could give some problems to this Washington defense. So give me over 46.5 and a no-brainer over 3.5 field goals. Although the numbers work against us in this one. Chicago is averaging 1 field goal per game, while Washington is averaging 1.5 per game. But as the Blue Jays told us yesterday, it's not all about analytics. It's not all about numbers. Sometimes you got to trust your eyes, and I'm trusting my eyes here. Plus 100. 2 teams that might struggle to get some points at some times. They're going to settle for field goals early. This is an easy bet for me.
It's actually, I'm looking, it's plus 105 right now. That's the lowest number I've ever seen on the field goal prop. It's usually plus 120. It's plus 125. It might be plus 115. We haven't seen it that low.
Definitely not this year. Definitely not this year.
Get it. So I'm definitely in on the field goal.
Hush, you probably have to go here right away, right? Give us something you'd throw into a partner parlay here from a prop perspective. And then Patty and I can discuss it the rest of the way here.
You want guaranteed free money?
Sure.
Let's take
absolutely
under 0.5 yards, receptions, everything for Chase Claypool. Because they told him to sit his ass at home all week and not even show up. He's basically done. I'm joking about that as well, but watch the Chiefs pick him up for like a fifth rounder or something like that, and he can come in and help out the receiving core. My favorite one, and this for those of you that are maybe struggling in the wasteland that is the tight end category of fantasy football.
You going Cole Kmet?
Logan Thomas.
Oh, Logan Thomas on the other side. Big tight end night, I think, coming here.
Logan Thomas, the total is 27.5 yards. Howell's been looking at him more throughout the year. I think he had 4 or 5 targets last week, caught 3 of them for 41 yards. I think there is going to be a lot of Brian Robinson. I love the Brian Robinson number, although I kind of have to hold my nose at the minus 145. Everyone's obviously on the over on this one. But yeah, Logan Thomas over 27.5 receiving yards. I do like that. Put it this way. I also think Terry McLaurin's going to probably be good for 60 plus. He's at 59.5. But yeah, if you're putting something together with some props, give me over 27.5. And I'm always in on the field goal prop. And obviously we'll take a look. The lock shop isn't up yet, but we will get that CFL partner parlay.
Sure.
I guess we've got that until tomorrow. And enjoy the game tonight, fellas. We've got lots to talk about on WST coming up the top of the hour. We're 20 subs away from 10,000.
That's it. 20 subs away.
Any of you ESPNers, pop over at 1:00. Give us a sub at Winnipeg Sports Talk. We will be getting into the Jays disaster. And our pal Mike McIntyre, actually, who's here back covering the Winnipeg Jets, was at the game, was there for game 1 and game 2. So we'll kind of hear what the in-stadium experience and his thoughts on all of that. And talk a little bit of Bombers, of course, before the big game. And actually the president of the Sea Bears and that big season they had has just come by, and we're going to talk about their Franchise of the Year award. So fun show today coming up in less than 10 minutes over at Winnipeg Sports Talk. Guys, let me know what we come out on. But yeah, I'm in on Logan Thomas, and I've picked him up in a couple leagues where I needed a tight end tonight. So hopefully this premonition will come through. Left hand up, go Washington. Take it easy, boys.
See you later, man. There you go. That is us. Winnipeg Sports Talk starts here, coming up in about 10 minutes. Fantasy Football 5 still to come before we get into 2 guys and a goalie today. Pat, let's continue to put together. So this morning we did the Cool Bet Hotline of the Day on the Nielsen Show. I had DJ Moore at 49.5. That number's now been moved up to 52.5. So I got if I really like things for this show, I got to stay away from them on the Nielsen Show, because 52.5 might change some things. I still like it. The one stat that I really liked, and I was going to dive into this in the Fantasy Football Show, is that why it is the case, why it's not the case, but Justin Fields is among the league leaders, or DJ Moore is among the league leaders in catches with at least 20 air yards under them. Like, they take deep shots to DJ Moore, and the Commanders are in the top 3 in the league in giving up deep shots to receivers. So that's why I kind of like DJ Moore a little bit earlier on today. Justin Fields is interesting. You're on him over the rushing. I'm intrigued a little bit with the 192.5 through the air, because he hasn't played well this year. He's covered that total 3 times. The only game he didn't was against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm kind of intrigued there. But I think the one thing that I'd like to throw in here would be Cole Kmet plus money over 3.5 receptions with Chase Claypool out of the lineup. I mean, you're looking basically at DJ Moore and then Cole Kmet. And I think last week he had like 9 targets and 7 catches or something along those lines. So I really like Cole Kmet here, over 3.5 catches in this ball game. So that would probably be what I would like to throw in to a partner parlay. So how do you think we put this thing together?
I think so. I think we both put the 2 tight ends in there.
Okay.
I think I agree. I think this is a tight end fest here. And I feel like last year, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but when Fields was playing some of his best football, he was finding Kmet quite a bit. I'm a Notre Dame fan. Cole Kmet, good Irish boy. I'm in for that. I love Kmet. I'm down for that. Do we want, like I said,
Hus wanted the over the yards, right, on Thomas?
Yards.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we want receptions, because I just saw that. The fact that it's plus 135 is incredible. I think that's a no-brainer. I have my primetime bet up, and it's over 3.5 field goals, a Chase Young sack, and Brian Robinson over 75.5 rushing yards.
Quick one on Robinson. Are the touchdown scores up right now? I was looking.
So for some,
they're not up right now, are they?
Reason, they went offline, I think, because of a risk. So that usually means, and this is the transparency thing about Cool Bet, there probably was a
significant bet on one of them. Yeah,
a significant bet. So they'll take it down, put it back up with the new odds.
I like a Robinson touchdown seems pretty nice too.
Could do a Robinson here. Maybe it's because sometimes the bet builder, if you go into the bet builder, it's a different system. So let's pull up the bet builder here.
Let's see what it is
real quick. So Brian Robinson to score a touchdown. I'll add him in there. This is good radio.
Brian Robinson.
Robinson receiving. So he was. No, sorry. We wanted
Thomas. Thomas receiving.
Thomas, right?
Yeah.
Thomas receiving yards. What was it?
Hus wanted it at 27.5. There's a 25 in Bet Builder.
Let's go 25.
So add that in there. And then what did I say? Komet receiving stats. Receptions 3+. Well, 3.5 would be 4+. So plus 475 for those three. Yeah.
Yep. Got that there. +4. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, I think that's nice. That's not asking too much, like that. And it's a nice number too. And that's pre-boost.
Yeah.
So, all right. So there we go. Cole Kmet, 4+ receptions. Thomas, 25+ receiving yards. Robinson, anytime touchdown. That should be up rather shortly, I would think. Penny,
yeah, it'll be.
Afternoon.
I think. Yeah, and I think the CFL one will get up. Will get up quicker. I have a question for you, leading. Okay. Maybe this is a little transition into the fantasy 5.
Yeah.
Evan Ingram or Sam Laporta?
Well, I'm a huge Sam Laporta guy.
I know you are.
I'm a huge Sam Laporta guy, so I would probably say Laporta. Ingram's got Buffalo this week. I mean, maybe the Jags have to hang tight in there, but I would definitely say Laporta. Laporta, Goff is a tight end fantasy machine. I mean, I drafted Laporta late in a lot of leagues, and it's actually paid off. I've been trying to trade for him in a couple of other ones, so I would say Laporta for sure.
That's where I have him. I just wanted to double check. I mean, I love Laporta. Also, obviously, Ingram going up against the Bills, so that makes it a lot easier for me. I locked him in.
Perfect. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you later, man.
All right. Thanks for having me, as always. Enjoy the game tonight.
Yeah, we will.
Enjoy the brisket.
Yes, I will. See you later. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Football 5 Century Casino. That's where we're going to be at tonight. If you're listening to the podcast a little bit later on, if you're watching live right now, I'm starting to get worried we might have too many people there. There's been a lot of people who've been messaging in today being like, hey, we'll see you guys tonight. I mean, it's pretty big sports bar and lounge, actually, so they should be able to accommodate us. But it's going to be a great time tonight, and obviously I might be the only person there cheering for the Bears because I'm on them. +6. Brighton scored? 2-1, Brighton. 2-1. How much time's left? 2-1 Marseille. That's what I mean. But how much time's left? 50 minutes, or it was like 55th minute or something. Oh, we got lots of time. All right, here we go. Brighton resurgence. Hey, Edmonton Sports Talk is on Brighton today, so that's exciting. If you have any fantasy questions, hit us up right now, 780-218-9999. We had a lot of good ones rolling yesterday, 780-218-9999, or, of course, over on the chat as well. You can hit us up there right now. I think we had a couple come in earlier. Let me just quickly scroll back up. Ryan, for fantasy, Cole Kmet or Zach Ertz rest of season? We just kind of laid it out. I mean, with Claypool kind of gone, that's another big body out of there for the Chicago Bears. I think Cole Kmet ends up becoming like the Cole Kmet that I thought he was going to be last year when I invested him in a bunch of leagues. So Cole Kmet's their second best target, in my opinion. Nothing against Mooney and some of these other guys, but I would be looking at DJ Moore and Cole Kmet getting a pretty steady diet. You heard Patty say on the lock shop there that Justin Fields has played a lot of his best football when he relies heavily on Cole Kmet. So I would probably go Cole Kmet in that situation. 780-218-9999. And we can get into, here we go. Let's get to this one from the playbook. Afternoon, fellas. Curious about your thoughts on whether I should start Debo or swap him for one of Jacoby Myers, Gabe Davis, or Mooney. I think he called him Derek Mooney. It's Darnell Mooney. Even if you don't get to this on air, just a text from Dusty would be appreciated. Thanks. That's in from the playbook. Well, playbook, we will get into it on the air here. There's always so much upside with Debo in that situation. That's a tough call. I mean, everything in me wants to continue to say you play Debo, but that's man. Part of me is thinking Jacoby Myers. Let's just take a peek at it. I got like 6 different ranking sites up here. Let's take a quick little peek. I mean, you're probably not in a great situation anyway. Nah. There's one thing we have to learn in fantasy is that, and I battle this all the time. Actually, one of the guys I battle with is another Niners option in Brandon Ayuk. He's a guy that I constantly overthink things about. And sometimes, overthinking it can work, but most of the time you end up regretting that decision. So I think I would probably just stick with Debo one more time. He'd be a top 25 guy this week, probably still for me. So Anson, start 2. Puka, Scary Terry, Pittman. Puka and Terry McLaurin. There was a big push for Jahan Dotson this year, and I got sucked into it too. But Scary Terry, who I ended up releasing in one of our leagues, and I got him in a pretty decent spot in the draft, and I got him back. And actually, I'm going to throw him in. I'll give you an example of Terry McLaurin this week because I've got him in my 16-team league. And let's dive into my receivers in that league right now, and I can kind of give you a comparison at where we're looking at for Terry. I'm a CBS league, kind of loaded a little bit slow there. Here we are. So this is my lineup this weekend in the Rusty Truck Fantasy Football League. I've got Richardson at quarterback, Jones and Bijan Robinson at running back. Amari Cooper's on a bye, so he'll be out. CeeDee Lamb, Kyle Pitts. You're killing me, Pitts. Addison in my flex. And then I've got Terry McLaurin and Brandon Ayuk right now on my bench. So I'll be moving Terry McLaurin into Cooper's spot, and I'll start Brandon Ayuk ahead of Addison in that situation. So, yeah, to me, if you look at must-starts tonight, Justin Fields, extremely frustrating. To me, Howell's not a must-start. Howell's hey, this guy's actually been pretty good so far this year. If you're in a spot, to me, they're kind of close. They're kind of close. I think I'd have Fields a little bit higher. I would say they're both top 15 options this week. Fields would be a must-start still, in my opinion. Howell is a maybe start. Robinson's obviously a must-start. Khalil Herbert had a huge week last week. I'd put him in that 12 to 24 running back range, so he would be a must-start for you as well. Cole Kmet is a must-start. Thomas would be a maybe start. Terry McLaurin's a must-start. DJ Moore's a must-start. Dotson is likely a flex start in that situation, and I think that pretty much covers everybody in the game tonight. That would be moving the needle for you in fantasy. 780-218-9999. Or, of course, you can hit us up anytime in the chat. We've got 2 guys and a goalie coming up here at edmontonsportstalk.com. And to join us tonight, Thursday Night Football, we'll be talking fantasy. We know there's going to be some guys there doing a hockey draft. You can come out and meet all of us, meet the team, meet some of our families and stuff, because that's what we are over here. We're a team, and we're a family at edmontonsportstalk.com. Gager is going to be popping in. Cass is actually not joining us today. He's on a flight. So Gager is going to join us as well. He'll pop in studio. And we got 2 guys in goalie coming up. Make sure you stay here. We should be transitioning people over. Yes. So if you're on YouTube right now, stick around. We're going to move you right over. Dan says time to fade Higgins. Yeah, I'm not giving up on Higgins yet, but I'm not. Man, and I was in love with T. Higgins heading into this season. He has been an absolute ball buster for me in a number of leagues. Anyway, if you're coming to Century Casino tonight, we will see you there. If you're not, stick around. We got 2 guys in the goalie coming up right here on edmontonsportstalk.com.